Welcome to Inside the Lines. I'm Lizi Arbogast alongside Ryne Gallacher, and we are here for week 5 of the football season. This is where things start to really kind of heat up. A playoff picture starts coming together. Teams really need to either, make or break their season at this point.
Yeah, it's halfway over. It's the sad point, but it's the part where you really got to start buckling down and you really got to finding your guys that you're going to plug in for late in the year in certain situations. And it's starting to cool down, so you're not going to see as much as the cramping. And plus, that was already starting to go down anyway, just with guys getting more in shape. So it's just guys getting more in shape and more accustomed to football. But before we know it, it's going to be gone. So it's going to be sad.
I know, it's crazy. It's like once you get into it, then it's over. So we are going to kick things off with our game of the week, which is Reeltown at Maplesville. This is 2 top 10 teams facing off against each other. Reeltown was ranked number 6 in 2A last week. Haven't seen the most recent poll yet, but I would expect them to move up. Maplesville was number 2 in Class 1A. This is a non-region game, but obviously anytime that you can go up against a team that's that solid, you want to get a victory.
Right. This is where you see that where your team lines up as. This is their real test game for them. And
absolutely.
Even if they lose this game, which I don't think they will, they'll still be able to obviously make a run for the playoffs. And I think the problem for Reeltown, we said that, and Coach Johnson talked about it last week, and we talked about it last week on the show, is getting rid of the scrambling, broken plays. We need to have more on time, on schedule, because these are those games that running 20 yards back and then being able to run forward for 50 more is right. It's
going to be harder anyway.
Right, and Iverson Hooks last week struggled. He had a fumble, he had a pick, and he did his scrambling and threw one past the line of scrimmage that got called back that ended up killing a drive. So it's just you got to find the timing in the offense. And last week I said I hope they hadn't peaked too early, and obviously we're not seeing that. They're still clicking on all cylinders, special teams, defense, offense, everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that Coach Johnson was really impressed with was he said that he felt like their defense played the best that they had played under Coach Johnson in his whole 4 years. That he felt like they were really just physical. They stayed on top of it. They made all their checks. It was a really, really good game for the defense, and they're going to need that against Maplesville, which has a really solid, very well-balanced offense. So I would expect this to sort of be one of those low-scoring, similar to last week, where it's just kind of whoever ends up having the big play or something like that. It could one play could make or break the game.
All right. Well, like you said, the defense helped them a lot, and nothing better than when you turn the ball over, getting turnovers right back. We had Eric Shaw had the interception that he returned last week, but I want them to how we saw them do with that Dadeville game. I want to see them control the clock a lot more, maybe with this team.
Yeah.
I want to see them pass the ball some more. They got to get that timing down right. I think that's something that comes with practice, and I think they're gonna have a good week.
Yeah, I hope so. And either way, I mean, like you said, it's a good test of where you are right now.
It's a good measuring stick, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And when we get to the playoffs, these are the kinds of teams that you're gonna face. These really high caliber teams. So it's good practice moving on down the line. Another team that we've got in action is Benjamin Russell is headed to Chilton County. This is a team that used to be in their region. Was he a line coach? Tal Morrison is the head coach of Chilton County. He was at Benjamin Russell for a couple of years. So there's always kind of that extra little emotion that he wants to beat his former team. Benjamin Russell coming off a big win against Demopolis. Carter Smith went down with a concussion at halftime, and when I talked to Coach Smith about it, he said that really just they kind of rallied around him. They used that as their rallying cry, if you will.
Sometimes when you get in a situation like that where you're losing your starting quarterback, a lot of you can either go really down or really north, and they like you said, they rallied around their guy, and he just gave them their guys a belief and a little bit of juice that we can win this game. And there was more athleticism at the quarterback position, which maybe extended plays a little bit longer for them. I still haven't seen Benjamin Russell play this year, but I'm going to catch them in action this weekend.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see that.
I hope that you get a good game. Chilton County's 3-2 on the season. The record's pretty good, but they haven't faced quite the same caliber of teams that Benjamin Russell has. So I look for Benjamin Russell to get a victory. They've got 2 really, really tough games coming with Opelika next week, followed by Wetumpka the week after that. So they really need to kind of continue on this uphill swing if they want to get back into region play on a high note and potentially make the playoffs this year.
And with Smith going out with a concussion, they're probably going to have to play Pitts, is that?
Yeah, he said that he wasn't sure. He was still under concussion protocol when I talked to him this morning. And so they're just kind of waiting to see. And he said it really might be like a game time decision, that he might get cleared Friday morning, and then we decide if he's going to go or not.
Well, I was going to say the advantage to that is now that you have a new quarterback in and you do have a belief in him, it's something that the other teams haven't seen on tape. So you could really surprise some teams and maybe bring some tricks out of the playbook that you haven't really shown off
seen before,
or haven't really used a lot, if any. So I'd be interested to see some of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Another team that's probably in desperate need of a victory is Dadeville hosting Elmore County. It's Dadeville's homecoming night. This is always kind of a rivalry game because these schools are so close together. They were in a region together until Dadeville dropped down in a classification. But Dadeville sitting at 1-4, Elmore County at 0-4. Both of these teams really need a win.
Well, like you said, it's a rivalry game. So, I mean, even if one team was 5-0 and the other 0-5, you never know what's going to happen in a rivalry game.
Right.
But Dadeville, they played that week 2 against Reeltown, and they played really well against them, and it was 28-20. And I just don't think they've been the same team since because they've been banged up at key positions a lot along the line. Last week they didn't have their starting quarterback, so they had to play their backup quarterback, and he's a freshman making his first start, and he just wasn't ready yet. And then Dadeville, they also used, so once he went down, they lost their backup, Rambo. And so they went to a Wildcat, and they got success with it, but the game was already too out of hand for the second straight week in a row. And I think that Dadeville just needs to get off to a faster start.
Right.
Because they do find their footing. It's just always late in the third and then early in the fourth. And then they make a couple touchdowns in a row, and they get an onside kick, and it's like, well, where was this? In the third quarter.
Right, 20 minutes ago.
Right.
And that's one thing they're really going to have to do against Elmore County, because with Elmore County, they're so low in depth that they start out really well. They've been leading or pretty close to every team that they played in the first half, and then ended up losing by 3 touchdowns in 2 or 3 of them just because they run out of steam. So if Dadeville can keep it close in the first half, maybe be ahead or be down, I think that Dadeville will be able to outlast Elmore County. But if Elmore County has such a good start that it's 4 touchdowns out of hand by the halftime, then I don't think Dadeville can come back from that at this point.
Dadeville has to come out quick because if they do come out quick and they always find their footing late, it seems like, then they'll be fine for the whole game. Running the ball is key. I asked Coach about this last week because I saw their game 2 weeks in a row, and the beginning of the season they had Wilkerson in the slot, and they kept having touchdowns with him out of the slot, and then they've been having him outside. And I asked Coach if they've been seeing something on film. He just thought they've had the better matchup on the outside, but look for him to maybe be lined up on inside again this week in the slot, because he's a tall, lanky, fast receiver that is a mismatch for linebackers and linebackers at this level of high school. They're usually a lot shorter and stout guys versus. Because the big guys are going to be safeties and stuff, or defensive ends and stuff like that. It's hard to find big. And Dadeville has probably the biggest bulky linebackers of any of those schools in the area. So
then we've got Horseshoe Bend, which is headed to Lochapoka. Horseshoe Bend coming off its first victory of the season, beating Central Coosa. We were so excited for Coach Phillips, obviously, to get that first win as a head coach. It was also, I forgot, they hadn't won at home since 2016. It had been a really, really long time since they had won at home. So that was all really, really good. And I think that they're sort of in an opposite boat of a lot of our teams who they've gotten the really tough part of the schedule out of the way.
Right.
Other than Lafayette, that's their best competition moving forward. Lochapoka sitting at 1-4. This is a team that they should be able to beat. They should be able to kind of build on this momentum.
Right. They should be able to at least compete against this team. It should be a game. And they did well in the pass coverage last week. We know Coosa liked to throw it a lot, so I think they got 2 interceptions on Coosa, maybe only 1. I know for a fact at least 1 interception. But I do want to see them throw the ball a little bit more. I think they're just still too gun-shy, because when they do throw the ball, they have success with it. It's just they don't do it enough, and it's 2 times a game or 4 times a game, and it's just, I think it opens up that run game for them, and it also cuts back on those fumbles they have that end up being drive killers for them, I think.
And they did really well with not turning the ball over last week. That was a huge help, because Coosa does have, especially in the first half, they did have some offensive drives that looked nice, but obviously couldn't sustain a lot. Similar to Elmore County, they just kind of peter off there because they don't have the depth. They don't have a lot of players to choose from at this point.
Right.
But I definitely think that Horseshoe Bend can get a victory this week for sure, and build on something. And that region, I've said it a million times, that fourth and now even that third spot, knowing kind of where Thorsby is open to anybody. So they definitely have a shot still to make the playoffs. And then Central Coosa is headed to Walter Wellborn. This is probably going to be a really short night for the Cougars. Walter Wellborn ranked in the top 10 in Class 1A. Central Coosa questionable with Dante Daniels' return. He went out with a concussion last week.
They can't afford to lose anybody.
No, and especially they can't afford to lose the guy who's their quarterback, their running back, their punter.
They're all-in-one guy.
They're everybody. He's definitely their jack of all trades. So I worry that Coosa's going to have a rough week this week. And they know that.
You don't want to beat anybody up, but this is just going to be a rough week for Coosa and it might be one of the most lopsided scores we'll see all year.
Yeah.
I feel kind of bad for them, but one last week really would have helped them to get like Horseshoe Bend has a little bit of hope now, and then if they get a win this week, you're not going to make the playoffs, but at least you're giving your program hope towards the future, and I just don't see that right now with Coosa. Mm-hmm. They just got to get more guys.
Yeah, and Central Coosa is the complete opposite of Horseshoe Bend, where they've had their potentially the easiest region games on the schedule. They still haven't played Reeltown, they still haven't played Lafayette, still haven't played Thorsby, so it's going to get a lot harder from here. So main thing is to stay healthy and hope that they can continue to put a football team on the field, because they were down to 15 guys by the end of last week's game. So hopefully get some of those guys back will be a good thing for them. So non-region week this week, but still a lot of exciting games. Again, that playoff picture starting to come together a little bit more, and we're making that push into the second half of the season. So make sure to get out, support our local football teams this Friday night, and we will see y'all next week.